Hey everybody, it's Missy.
It's April.
And this is SheelaNaGig. Hey there. Thanks for being here.
Yes.
Thanks for tuning in. We're always so happy to have you. And thanks so much for your questions, your comments, your Sheilas.
We love them. We love so much feedback. Please keep it coming.
Keep it coming. And you know what? If you like the podcast, if you like a certain episode, we would love it if you would write us a 5-star review. That could really help us immensely. So think about that. If that works for you, that would really make our day. And definitely subscribe too. We could definitely use you subscribing to the podcast. So thank you. And of course, everybody knows that on the SheelaNaGig podcast, each week we present, we explore our own SheelaNaGig, and to us, that is a woman whose strength and perseverance has led her to greatness, somebody who empowers us, inspires us. It could be somebody from back in history. It could be somebody contemporary from today who's still living. And it could be
someone you don't know.
Yeah, someone you don't know. Someone you've never heard of before.
But should.
Or sometimes we're retelling the story.
Yep. Yeah.
This happens too.
That's true.
Yeah.
Clarifying and putting light on the truth.
Yes, which unfortunately continues to kind of remain hidden. I was having lunch with a friend the other day and I was telling her about Zelda Fitzgerald.
Oh, yeah.
And Scott Fitzgerald, and she was blown away. She
Yeah.
had no idea.
Yeah.
I said, well, listen to the damn podcast.
And Pocahontas,
Yeah.
that just really blew me away.
Listen to the podcast. It's going to make you in the know.
Yeah.
It's going to make you in the know, for sure.
Definitely.
Right? Yeah. How are you, April? I haven't seen you in a while.
I know. We usually get together several times a week, and
Things have been a little weird.
Yeah. Been busy.
But you just had cataract surgery.
I did, yes.
How's that?
Well, it's coming along. Life is a little blurry at the moment, but I'm hopeful.
Yeah. Yeah.
They say it gets better over time.
Okay. That's good.
And how are you?
I'm good. I'm good. I'm just getting ready. We have our big Salt Lake City volleyball tournament coming up for my daughter.
Oh, for your daughter,
So
she's a big volleyball player.
Yeah, getting ready to go to that. And Jan Flan's having a heart valve replacement. Everybody remembers Jan Flan from, our reel, I'm sure.
Missy's
my
mother-in-law.
Who's 91. She's very spirited and awesome.
Yeah, she acts like a 71-year-old.
Yeah, she's a little frustrated because she's been slowing down. And I told her, well, now you're acting like a regular 91-year-old, you know? But we're really hopeful that this surgery is going to, help her get back on track. And it's amazing that they can do it through your groin now. They don't have to do it in open heart surgery anymore.
Oh, wow.
I mean, you have to be a candidate for it, but she passed all the tests, so she can be a candidate for it.
What great news. I'm so glad.
I know. I'm super glad. So, everybody put some good energy and healing into the universe for April 23rd. That's the day of her surgery. So, yeah, but you got a Sheela for me today, yeah?
I actually do.
All right. Pray do tell.
Before I actually get into my Sheela, I want to give a shout out to the New Yorker.
Oh, yeah. I love the New Yorker.
Yeah. I have been taking some nonfiction creative writing classes.
Yeah.
And so not only am I writing little essays and personal stories, but I'm reading a lot.
Yeah.
And the New Yorker offers wonderful content. So I decided to subscribe online.
Nice.
And a couple of weeks ago, I was in a doctor's office waiting and waiting and waiting and getting impatient. Mm-hmm. And I decided to go look on my phone and look in the New Yorker. And I came across an article and two names jumped out at me. The name of my Sheela and the name of what she wrote.
Whoa, okay.
And I had forgotten all about this because she really peaked in the 80s, and this article in the New Yorker was talking about how she really got obscured in history. We've all forgotten this.
Oh no.
And so, but the New Yorker really had this fabulous article. It was riveting. I couldn't stop reading it.
Their articles really are riveting.
They are. And so today I want to revisit Shere Hite and the Hite Report. Do you remember the Hite Report?
It sounds familiar, but I don't remember it.
Okay,
I feel a little ignorant right now. Everyone's probably like,
okay.
what? What? She doesn't remember it? Like, the name is familiar, but I do not know.
Well, that's why we have our podcast.
Exactly.
And this is why we do what we do.
Exactly.
The Hite Report, a national study on female sexuality, was a groundbreaking publication which revealed at the time of its publication an alarming 98% of American women found their sex lives lacking in some way. And this publication sold more than 50 million copies.
Wow.
Yeah, it was really...
And what year was that again?
It came out in 1976.
Okay.
And when it did, author Erica Jong, remember Erica Jong?
I love Erica
Fear of Flying?
Yeah.
Who wrote this groundbreaking feminist novel, Fear of Flying. Fear of Flying. I said Fear of Frying.
Well, I'd have a fear of that too.
Fear of Flying. Anyway, Erica Jong wrote the following. One of the fascinating things about the seemingly copious literature of sex is its glaring omissions. Although there are a number of books about female sexuality by men, there are virtually no books about male sexuality by women, and relatively few books about male sexuality by men themselves. This would seem to indicate, says Jong, that women's sexualities is regarded as a problem, whereas males is not regarded at all. Perhaps because it is seen as the norm. No woman I have ever met or read about would dare presume to tell a man what he feels during the sex act, how his orgasm is best obtained, whether he is feeling what he should be feeling, and yet men have been telling women all of those things about their sexuality for centuries.
Wow, it's true. That's so true.
Well, Jong goes on to write, what Shere Hite has done in the Hite Report seems very simple, but next to the inscrutable prose of Masters and Johnson, her simplicity is more than welcome. She sent questionnaires to 3,000 women of all ages, professions, and geographical locations, asking them everything about sex, orgasm, masturbation, and she composed a book of their replies.
Wow.
The women speak in their own words, and what they have to say is utterly fascinating and often surprising. Read the Hite Report, says Erica Jong, if you want to know how sex really is now.
Wow. So you've read it?
I read it at the time. I was a young woman.
You were 15. I just did the math. Yeah, I was 7. So maybe there's a reason I didn't hear.
Time,
but you were 15 when it came out.
I was 15. It was earth-shattering. It got a lot of attention, and I was riveted.
Yes. Wow.
So my Sheela is Shere Hite, and I wanted to feature her and the forgotten and obscure, and now obscure, Hite Report.
Wow.
So Shere
sounds fascinating.
Oh, please.
Yes.
Please.
Bring
I
it.
hope you enjoy it. Shere Hite was born Shirley Diana Gregory in St. Joseph, Missouri, to Shirley and Hurt Gregory. Her parents divorced when she was an infant, and Shere was largely raised by her grandparents, who were fundamentalist Christians. They had rejected their 16-year-old teenage daughter when she got pregnant, although she did marry Shere's dad.
Okay.
They divorced, as I said, and the dad was out of the picture, and Shere's mother briefly brought her then 9-year-old daughter to live with her and her stepfather after she remarried. The only thing that lasted was her stepfather's last name, which was Hite, which Shere kept. Unfortunately, her mother suffered from mental illness and repeatedly lived in psychiatric facilities for much of her life.
Oh, that's so sad.
So Shere lived with her grandparents until their divorce when she was a teenager.
Okay.
Then she was sent to live with an aunt in Daytona Beach, Florida. And after trying to join a cheerleading squad at Seabreeze High, she wrestled with this double standard she felt at the time. She was striving as a cheerleader to be sexually alluring while also adhering to the mainstream standards of the time of being innocent of sexual desire. So after she graduated from the University of Florida in the late 60s, she moved to New York to enroll in Columbia University's history graduate program.
Good for her. Good for her.
Yeah, she wrote a thesis on what was of interest to her, which was women's sexuality across time. When she went to meet with the cultural historian Jacques Berzon, whom she had hoped to study with, he told her that he had read her master's thesis and doubted that she had written it. For one thing, I know, can you believe it?
Doubted that she had written it.
For one thing, he didn't believe the University of Florida library could have held the books that she cited. She experienced this meeting both as class prejudice and gender prejudice.
Absolutely.
She also found that Columbia's doctoral program was too conservative, and she left after a year or so.
Okay.
But Shere wanted to stay in New York, owing the cost of living was very high, and friends suggested that she might try some modeling. She was quite lovely, and for a while she found it easy to make a living posing for illustrators who used her image to draw racy paperback cover art and a poster for the James Bond movie Diamonds Are Forever.
Wow.
Yeah,
look
it's
at
an
that.
iconic poster, and that was Shere Hite, or at least the female image was inspired by her silhouette. Shere did nudes and semi-nude modeling for sex shops, skin magazines, and even playing cards.
Wow. Racy gal after being raised by fundamentalist Christians.
Right.
Oh, that's why I was kind of laughing when you said that earlier, because I just had this moment like, well, I know where that's going.
After acting in a self-described grade C porno film, she expressed appreciation for getting to see so many naked bodies, all kinds and shapes. She was really fascinated by the human body and intrigued. What bothered her most about modeling and acting was the amount of time she had to give to her physical upkeep. She didn't like spending hours on hair and makeup and nails. What she really wanted to do was read, write, and think. But what really pushed her out of modeling and into the women's movement was a respectable but flagrantly sexist advertising campaign that she appeared in for Avaletti electric typewriters. Do you remember Avaletti electric typewriters?
I remember the name again, but I don't know.
Yeah, this is my generation.
Yeah.
This is before your time. Anyway, she'd been cast as a secretary, and she remembers the tagline was something like, "The typewriter that's so smart that she doesn't have to be."
Oh, God. Are you fucking kidding me?
I knew you'd love that.
Oh, I love that. Ugh.
After learning that other women were protesting such ads, she attended a meeting of the New York chapter of the National Organization for Women. Then she began attending marches and consciousness-raising meetings.
Didn't you say that she was in that commercial, right?
Yeah, she actually was in that commercial.
So I'm sure they were happy to see her. They must have been a little bit confused.
Well, it was her awakening. She
Right.
did this commercial, and then it was kind of like, oh my gosh, and she found out and realized.
Don't judge me. Right. I had an awakening. Don't judge me. Don't judge me.
Well, she figured out that other women were as appalled as she was, and it was liberating to go hang out with women who opposed this. And she confessed that she was in this one advertisement and that she was giving up modeling and acting for that reason.
Wow. Well, that's pretty powerful.
Yeah. The conversations we had in the movement and the esprit de corps, as she called it, was wildly intoxicating. She later wrote in her memoir, she felt that the feminist movement's intellectual debates made Columbia University look pale and anemic. But Shere noticed that her new friends didn't talk openly about what disappointed them sexually and what sexually rang their bells. Because as I mentioned, she was really interested in sexuality. For her, understanding how sex actually worked for people or didn't work was key to understanding gender relations more broadly. A woman's place in sex, she wrote, mirrors her place in the rest of society. She thought an anonymous survey might offer the insights that she was missing. Especially since she noticed here were these very forthright, liberated women talking about feminism and women's rights, and yet they'd clam up the moment she'd ask about sex.
Yeah, which kind of makes sense. I'm curious, do you know if she was in any kind of relationships at this point?
I believe she was, but I honestly didn't focus there. I focused very little on her own sexual life because it was really the progression of what she did that I will kind of circle back to that.
No, I'm just, because I'm curious in that how her partner, whoever at the time might have felt about her obsession with I shouldn't call it an obsession, but her interest rather in, sexuality. And, it would be a little bit difficult. Like my husband's a little embarrassed right now because of like the podcast I did about my broken vagina, my dispirited vagina. Right. He has a little feeling like that exposed. So I'm just curious.
I feel like I can't speak for any of her lovers, and I'm pretty sure she's had more than a few.
Yeah.
But she herself wouldn't have cared if the guy was uncomfortable. She wasn't about making people comfortable, although that's why she decided to use an anonymous survey to kind of find out what women did think and feel about their sexuality. So this is hysterical. I love this part, Missy. It reminds me a little bit of you. It is reported that by 1972, Shere was, and I quote, riding around Manhattan on a motorbike with her vintage lace gown streaming out behind her. That's the part that reminds me of you.
That might have been me in 72. It's true. Yeah.
She'd stopped to hand out questionnaires to any woman who was willing to take one. She mailed surveys to NOW chapters in the university's university women's centers. She placed notices about her surveys in church newsletters and in magazines. Yeah, like perfect place, church newsletters, and in magazines like Mademoiselle and Brides.
Yes.
The survey she created for her first study had 60 pointed questions for women about how, when, and why they had sex. She printed them at a gay anarchist print shop and commune in Lower Manhattan. I love that too. The survey was printed, wait for it, in rainbow ink on pastel paper.
Wow.
And the paper was decorated with hearts and starbursts. Author Rosa Campbell observed that those surveys resembled a teenage diary rather than a clinical questionnaire. And that was on purpose. Shere thought that if it looked the way that it did, she hoped it would invite unguarded replies.
Yeah.
So,
not so clinical.
Yes, not clinical. She received more than 3,000 responses from women in nearly every single state of the country.
Dang.
She openly acknowledges study sample selection was definitely biased, but it was an impressive outcome for what was described as an X-rated essay exam that no one had to take. Women answered questions on everything from first sexual encounters to how aging was affecting their sexuality. What ended up becoming the Hite Report was a 478-page book that contained the self-reported results from the 3,000 respondents who ranged in age from 14 to 78.
Wow, 14 to 78.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. The major eye-opener was that 70% of the women in her sample didn't regularly orgasm from heterosexual intercourse.
What is it, 70%?
70% of women didn't regularly or reliably orgasm from heterosexual intercourse.
I'm part of that 70%. Thank you very much.
I am too. I am too. Many reliably did orgasm from clitoral stimulation, including masturbation.
Yes. Okay.
This feedback challenged the predominant assumptions that women's orgasms were harder to achieve and inherently weaker than men's, and that failure to climax from vaginal intercourse was some type of neurotic block, best treated through psychological intervention.
Oh my God.
Well, guess where that idea came from? Hello, Mr. Freud.
Yeah.
In his 3 essays on the theory of sexuality, Freud argued that a woman's reached sexual maturity and normalcy when her infantile erotogenic susceptibility was transferred from the clitoris to the vaginal orifice.
What the fuck?
So what he was saying was until a woman could orgasm through vaginally, she was immature and not normal. And his American followers helped reinforce that turn-of-the-century belief. And that very belief was shame-inducing for women well into the 1970s when the Hite Report got published.
I mean, I always remember that was a thing when I was growing up, when people would talk about sex and stuff, and it was a thing, like, oh, can you orgasm from just having sex?
Or did you need the extra stuff?
Yeah.
The Hite Report, which Shere Hite published, as we said, in 1976, followed by the Hite Report on Male Sexuality in 1981, and Women in Love, published in 1987, were all drawn from non-random samples of respondents, those anonymous surveys. Therefore, her publications were often criticized for lacking statistical authority. And I mean, that's a valid point. For a study to be statistically valid, you had to have random sampling. And what she argued was you can't just randomly get anybody to fill out the report. So yes, there was bias in the fact that some people were willing to do that and some people weren't.
Right, certainly.
And while her critics enjoyed pointing out that her methods favored the unusual people who were willing to fill out these lengthy and revealing questionnaires.
Would you have filled one out, you think?
I think I would have.
Yeah, I would have.
You know, she covered everything that wasn't previously captured, from masturbation habits to whether people cried themselves to sleep.
Oh.
Shere retorted that a truly random sample was close to impossible in the whole area of sex research. Random slices of the population would not agree, as we were just saying, to answer probing questions. But the trade-off for hearing from a self-selected group of respondents was remarkably intimate, frank, and detailed accounts from thousands of people. And remember, this book sold millions and millions of copies, and women especially, and men too, I'll get to that, were lauding her findings. Nobody was saying this woman's a quack and we disagree. In fact, kind of the opposite. The skepticism seemed to be that as much as Shere's methodology for her 3 books were criticized, her books sold and women paraded and celebrated her work. Shere wanted to call her book Diana Rising, named after the Roman goddess, but her editor preferred the Hite Report because it echoed the spirit of the Kinsey Report on human sexuality, which was published in the late 1940s and early 50s. It was more of a clinical type of report, and the publisher wanted to make Shere's report seem credible and clinical.
Sure.
But her book was not very clinical, and even less like the William Masters and Virginia Johnson husband and wife sexologists, who were often photographed wearing lab coats. Masters was a gynecologist, and the couple researched centered on observing people's physiological reactions during sex. Volunteers, initially sex workers, in their labs were connected by wires to monitors that measured things like their heart rate and other metrics during sexual acts, either with partners or individually.
Wow.
So it was very medical, very clinical, very physiological.
Sure.
Despite Shere having letterhead embossed with Hite Research, there was no real research institute for her work. Only Shere herself and a small group of assistants who all worked for very low wages because they really believed in the mission of what they were doing. And they worked out of her apartment.
Wow. Okay.
The Hite Report, a nationwide study on female sexuality, was published in 1976 and, as we'd mentioned, became an instant bestseller. It sold over 50 million copies and was estimated to be the 30th best-selling book of all time.
Wow.
While not as successful...
She must have felt pretty vindicated, huh?
Well, funny you should say that. We're going to stick a pin in that.
Uh-oh.
Yep. While not as successful, her other books sold well, and she was frequently invited to appear on TV talk shows and made other appearances mostly outside of the U.S. 18 months after its publication, Shere left the United States permanently because of continued vicious media attacks, doorstepping, public humiliation, and death threats.
Oh my God.
Her fame, the social tensions of the women's movement, and the poor economy of the time had all left her feeling very resentful. She was often invited to speak on talk shows and things like that, giving interviews, but the interviewers were often would attack her and attack her legitimacy as a researcher, citing the lack of statistical validation of her subjects.
That sucks. Even Phil Donahue?
I don't know specifically about Phil. Good question.
It was when Mom's go-to. She loved the 70s. She
I can't imagine Phil attacking her.
Yeah, Phil seemed pretty nice, you know?
Yeah. But in the years after her book was published, women of all backgrounds wrote to express their deep appreciation. Suburbanites and city dwellers, housewives and former nuns, stewardesses and students. Over and over, women recounted how they felt there was something wrong with them sexually until they read the Hite Report. When I recall all the ridiculous apologies I've made and the doctors I've seen, I could scream, one woman wrote. You have changed my life forever.
That's amazing. It just normalized women,
yes,
you know,
and women's sexuality.
Yeah.
Exactly. Men wrote to her too, and many were grateful for her book because it taught them how to be mutually pleasurable in sex. As one man put it, the BS stuff you heard behind the garage or in the gym was less helpful than the Hite Report. A taxi driver dispatcher told her he kept the Hite Report on his desk as a sort of public service announcement.
That's awesome.
So other sexologists have since addressed the persistent gendered orgasm gap, as it's called, that Shere originally identified and uncovered. Women still report fewer orgasms during heterosexual encounters than men do. This pattern has been replicated often enough by now to count as robust findings for social science standards. The authors of a 2020 paper, Orgasm Equality, Scientific Findings and Societal Implications, conclude that there is a cultural overhauling of intercourse, a tendency for women to feel less entitled to sexual pleasure than men do, and lousy sex education. Researchers who analyzed pornography, where many people get their sex education, have found that women are shown having fewer orgasms than men.
Interesting.
And when they are shown having orgasm, it is most often through vaginal or anal intercourse. Women also report in the author's formulation higher levels of both overall cognitive distractions and more specifically appearance-focused cognitive distractions during sexual activity than men do. So in other words, their minds wander. These same obstacles were what Shere informants wrote about way back in the 80s and 70s and 80s. The fact that these experiences persist after so much has been written to dispel outdated ideas suggests how right Shere was to insist that the problem lay not in women's bodies, but then in the cultural scripts surrounding them. Still, she was attacked, she was dismissed, and she was forgotten.
Ugh, it sucks.
Yeah.
Sure.
Still, if the Hite Report changed the lives of women for the better, what happened to her following the publication of her next two books is sadly more revealing about gender politics. The 1981 publication of the Hite Report on male sexuality was again based on questionnaire responses. While it addressed men's sexual desire and experiences, it also focused a lot on men who had no close friends, who felt flummoxed and in some cases angry at the changes feminism and the modern labor market brought to bear. Some men expressed feeling trapped in constricting gender roles. As one male wrote, they were expected to be a cross between John Wayne, the Chase Manhattan Bank, and Hugh Hefner.
Aww.
I know. He wrote, "We're only human, for Christ's sake." This women's lip thing is good, another wrote, but is going too fast for most men to adjust to. It becomes very confusing at times because it's so hard to understand a woman's way of thinking. In Shere's 1987 book, Women in Love, an overwhelming majority of female respondents said they gave more emotional support than they received in their relationships with men. They stated a longing for more verbal closeness. The book was filled with women who felt their partners neither listened to them nor spoke openly about their own feelings. Shere was accused of rarely entertaining the possibility that her respondents might have answered their questionnaires on a particularly bad day, or that anonymity might encourage exaggeration. But the comments shared a unifying message. I'd like to talk more, that I feel like I'd bore him when I talk too much.
Interesting.
Isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
Another woman said that her partner will whistle and sing and slam doors when I try discussion. You may disagree with Shere Hite's methods, but with her conclusions, novel Hilary Mantel wrote, but no one could believe that she seriously misinterpreted what many women feel about their lives.
Yeah. And that seems true.
I mean, we've had lots of conversations about men are from Mars and women are from Venus.
Yes.
That men don't communicate in the same way. And it makes sense that there are gaps between feeling satisfied in the overall themes of intimacy, not just sex, but being able to communicate.
Yeah, surely.
And being validated for more feeling orientations.
Certainly.
Both books made readers more uncomfortable and drew fiercer attacks than the Hite Report. Shere continued to be invited on talk shows, but was often ambushed and criticized. Her statistics, that's sad.
That sucks.
It does.
Almost like they invited her on there to ridicule her.
Oh, they did. They did.
That sucks.
Yeah. Her statistics were often the major target of the rebuff, and although she expressed confidence in her methodology, it often came across as a weaker point that she was making. She wasn't landing that with a lot of conviction and effectiveness.
Right.
Even the substantive critics of her work took on it like a nasty edge. They could challenge her, but they got downright cruel. And she began receiving hate mail, as I mentioned, and death threats.
Of course she did.
Yeah. In the 90s,
fragile egos. We're dealing with very fragile egos.
Oh, yeah.
You know?
Definitely. In the 90s, wary of the cost of fame, she renounced her American citizenship and moved to Cologne with her then husband, Frederick Horreich, a German concert pianist who was 2 decades her junior. The couple had married in 1985, and the marriage lasted for 15 years but ended in divorce. She did later remarry, and as she approached 70, she remained unafraid of stirring up controversy. In 2006, she published the Shere Hite Reader, new and selected writings on sex, globalization, and private life. And she lectured on sex and sexuality and was writing a screenplay about her own life. Before that screenplay was finished, Shere Hite died on September 9, 2020, in her home in London at age 77. She reportedly passed away from complications of Alzheimer's and Parkinson's disease, specifically citing cortiobasal degeneration. 2 recent projects. Yeah. I mean, she really did such a service for so many women and took a lot of heat for it for the rest of her life.
Yeah, she
and
did.
while she didn't back down, she certainly always had to deal with the controversy and disapproval. So 2 recent projects explored why Shere Hite's and her publication fell out of public awareness. Each project attempted to restore her place in history within the 20th century of sex. The Disappearance of Shere Hite is a 2023 documentary that was directed by Nicole Newnham and narrated by Dakota Johnson.
Oh, we should watch that.
We should, yes. I would love to.
Yeah.
And they say it includes terrific archival footage, including of people on talk shows really lacing into her and her defense. Now in time for the 50th anniversary of the Hite Report, there is The Book That Taught the World to Orgasm and Then Disappeared by Rosa Campbell, an Australian academic and activist based in London. Drawing on original research.
I like the title. See the title again.
The title, The Book That Taught the World to Orgasm and Then Disappeared.
That's a very effective title, I'm going to say. Yeah.
Drawing on original research and sharp cultural analysis, Rosa Campbell explores Hite's complicated life and literary legacy. She expands on Hite's ideas about sex, namely that sex is sexist, and tracks Hite through her fraught childhood, her struggles working in the porn industry, and eventually her cancellation by far-right evangelistic movements. So again, the New Yorker was commenting on Rosa Campbell's publication, and that's why we had such a wonderful and rich article, but it's so funny because I was very influenced and by the Hite Report when it came out, and it totally slipped my mind when I saw it in print so recently. And so I had to bring the show.
No, and I'm so glad you did. And it's coming back to me a little bit. I'm sure that my mom read it. And I can almost see the cover of it. My mom was such a liberated woman,
She was, yes.
in some way. She wanted to be very liberated. That was her goal. But yeah, I'm sure. And now it's coming back to me totally. This is just so interesting. Now, she was working on a movie about herself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
A screenplay.
A screenplay.
But nothing ever happened with that, it seems.
No, but it did seem as though she did have some health issues that might have slowed that down.
Maybe the SheelaNaGig podcast should complete that mission, that film. Whoever's listening, reach out. Maybe we'll do it. April.
Sure. No, it would be amazing. I'd love to see her work become re-engaged with the public consciousness. I think women, again, need to hear what her findings were.
It'd be really interesting if somebody were to collect that data again. I suspect it wouldn't be that different.
Well, there were, as I mentioned, that 2020 paper.
Right.
Which really affirmed everything she said.
Yes.
And was statistically valid. It
Right.
was more
Of course it was.
scientific and clinical. But what Shere Hite achieved that none of these other clinical surveys and research achieved was really getting candid responses from women, just, from the horse's mouth.
Sure.
And how it really resonated with women, and that all these different voices all over the country were fairly aligned. They were all kind of saying a lot of the same things.
Yep.
And so while so many people tried to discredit her work, you couldn't deny that people really related to it and understood it, and men appreciated it. Men felt they became better lovers.
It's good.
And women felt liberated to have sex the way in which it worked for their unique bodies instead of trying to conform to a standard that really didn't work for women.
Right.
It doesn't work for women.
And the fact that it was anonymous,
Yes.
that probably gave women the courage to respond, whereas if it had not been anonymous, she wouldn't have had that response, unfortunately.
Yeah, that was what she felt, and really trying to make this very approachable and very non-clinical. Those were her objectives, and while she was really widely criticized for it, she really gave the public, both men and women, a lot of validation and a lot of really good information.
Yeah, absolutely. Wow. Shere Hite.
Shere Hite.
I like the name, Shere Hite. It sounds, I don't know, it doesn't even sound like a name. It sounds like an experience.
Yeah, well, she might agree with you.
Do you share height? Totally. Do you share height? I do, actually. I love it. It's really changed my life. Like that. Kind of like that. Like something you do. This is fascinating. And I definitely, let's watch that documentary for sure.
Definitely.
I'm so glad you brought her to the table. Let us know what you think. Let us know your experience learning about the Hite Report. How old were you at that time? What did it mean to you? What did it awaken in you?
And if you're young and this is the first time that you're hearing about it, I really want to encourage you to read it. It's a moment in history, and yet I think you may find that it really still very much applies to women today.
Yeah, absolutely. This was fucking fascinating. Thank you, April.
Thank you. Thanks for listening.
Thanks for listening, everybody. Until next time, take care. Bye.
Bye.
SheelaNaGig, unabashed in your clothes.